Hello, welcome back to Collider Jedi Council. It is the show where we talk everything Star Wars, and we're so excited once again. It is the Council. I am Darth Harloff, a.k.a. Kristian Harloff. How about that? And on the Council, as always, he is Mark 2 D2. Follow him on the Mark side. It is Mark Ellis.
Thank you very much. Today's Luke Skywalker. He gets high on you. In the space he invades, he gets by on you.
Well, very nice, Tom Sawyer.
Well said.
Also, Obi-Jon Kenobi. I got to keep you at Obi-Jon. Got to keep it at Obi-Jon. It's John Campia.
Hey, guys. Many things to talk about today, which I'm very excited about. So let's get rolling.
Let's get rolling. And the first thing, last week's episode, I mean, thank you guys so much. Over 230,000 people watched it. We are so grateful to everyone out there who checked it out. Meh? You're not so grateful? All right. We won't be grateful, I guess, until we get 2 million. So keep on sharing, keep on commenting, do all of that stuff because it's working, as Elliot said in E.T. Starting with Star Wars movie news.
Young Anakin said that too.
Will we quote?
It's working.
Can we quote?
Can we quote other
Elliot?
things? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Star Wars movie news. What is this? This is everything happening in the world of the movies in the Star Wars universe. Now, this could be the anthology films, episode 7, 8, 9, whatever. Mark, there's a lot of stuff that happened. A lot of stuff that happened at D23. What do we got?
It's fair to say that last week's episode blew up like Alderaan. Too soon? We'll find out. The first news is, of course, about D23, Kristian. We got a lot of news tidbits at D23 about upcoming Star Wars films, not the least of which is kind of a mini slate. The next 5 movies were announced. So you have your Force Awakens, you have your Rogue One, you have your Episode 8, you have your standalone Lord and Miller Han Solo movie, then you have Episode 9. Episode 9, it was officially announced, will be directed by Colin Trevorrow of Jurassic World fame, ladies and gentlemen. But the news we're going to start off with is the casting confirmations came out for Rogue One. So you have everybody from Ben Mendelsohn, Forrest Whitaker, Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Riz Ahmed. Everyone that we had pretty much speculated would be in this movie that we heard rumors about it was confirmed to be in the film. So, Kristian, are all these casting announcements good news for the movie in your opinion?
Yeah, because, I mean, it's pretty much what we all speculated here, was that they couldn't say anything about it until Rogue Nation came out. Rogue Nation came out, and we all said, one of our predictions was, well, they're definitely going to confirm the cast at Rogue One.
Yeah. And
they did, because they could, and that was why Ben Mendelsohn couldn't say anything until he was allowed to. Now, one thing I want to point out, and a fan pointed this out to me, this is interesting, and I don't know if you were able to see me over here, but look at this guy. See this guy in the background right there? That sure looks like Lobot. If you look at his outfit, that looks like Lobot for sure. But there was that, and then another speculation. Mark actually brought this up to me today, and I'm curious what John thinks here. John, is there a possibility that Diego Luna is playing Biggs? A lot of people have been speculating this.
No.
You thought about it.
I wanted to consider for a second.
Mustache.
Look. Therefore, because not a lot of mustaches in Star Wars. The only reason I would say no, this is the only reason I would say no, is because from our understanding of the trilogy and continuity up till this point, Biggs is a Tatooine kid with Luke, and they're just there together until Biggs leaves for the Academy. And that doesn't fit with this time. It might fit with the timeline.
It kind of does.
Maybe this is the first thing he does at the Academy.
This is what we talked about, Mark and I, this morning.
I feel like this makes sense because at the beginning of A New Hope, Luke is complaining that his buddy Biggs got to go to the Academy that year and that he had to wait another season on the farm to help his uncle with moisture farming. So I think the timeline does make sense, even if you include the special edition when Luke did bump into Biggs before the battle at the Death Star, and also if you have like extended scenes or cut scenes, deleted scenes, where it had Luke and Biggs interacting, it still makes sense to a point. Now, if you have rogues that are deciding to steal Death Star plans last minute, do you bring on the brand new guy at the Academy? Maybe that's your only option at this point. And it's interesting because all we really know about Biggs as far as movie fans go is that he did not make it out of the battle at the Death Star. Now, if they put Biggs in this, it makes him so much more of a hero if he's one of the people that helps us steal the plans to that very mission, which he was on.
Except one big problem. Can I bring up one big problem? One big problem. Big problem with this being Biggs. You could find a way to explain around it, I suppose.
The accent.
No. Oh, the accent would be. But here's the problem. Okay, so Biggs is a part of this big top secret thing. We're going to go steal the death plans. Now, we know if it is Biggs that he survives it because we see him in Star Wars Episode 4. Where do we then see Biggs next?
After episode 4?
No. Where do we see Biggs? Where's the first time we see Biggs in Star Wars Episode 4?
Well, I mean,
He's chilling when they're in the meeting about how to attack the Death
He's
Star.
on the guy who stole the plans is at the base where they were trying to get the plans to in the first place.
Right.
Why didn't he just bring him there?
Right. Well,
Hey, you know what? We could send these to Princess Leia, but here's the thing. At 2:30, I'm heading over to the hidden base anyway.
Right.
Why don't I just take him with me?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of hope it doesn't, because it goes back to what you were saying last week, John. It's like, new characters, please. Let's tie in. We don't always have to make everything tie in if it's not necessary. It's a nice nod. But the other thing is that the one thing arguing towards it, I guess, is the fact that Biggs was part of the Academy. Now, the Academy you would assume is the Empire, because they didn't know about the rebellion, really.
The Imperial Naval Academy.
Yeah, it was an Imperial. So maybe at this point he gets recruited into it, and all the cut scenes, what's canon, what's not. I'll tell you what, though, I'll have less of a problem with this than I would if Felicity Jones is Boba Fett's daughter. Stop that.
Yeah.
Stop that. I don't need. You have a perfect. If you're going to tie in anything, you have a perfect opportunity to tie your show of Rebels that if you want other people to watch it when this movie's a hit, and if you want to tie in a character to Sabine, you could do that, or you just make her someone new.
I think you make her someone new. Donnie Yen's edition is very excited about that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And forgive me, I don't have the notes in front of me, and I can't remember these in the notes. So just stop me and tell me if I'm skipping ahead too much, okay? The one thing about this image that really jumps out to me the most is the title.
Oh, no, we should talk about this. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about this later?
We should talk about it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's called Rogue One, a Star Wars
story.
They
The word
switched.
anthology was gone when they
Yeah.
brought up that map of the 5 movies.
They ignored it like a fart in a car.
It's gone. It's like, it's like, did they only come up with anthology 5 minutes before Celebration started and thought, nah, you know what, now we don't really like it, and they got rid of it? It was starting to grow on me.
Yeah.
Star Wars anthology, Star Wars, it was a great separation from the chapters and the anthologies.
And Pablo Hidalgo made such a big deal of that at Celebration, saying, guys, it's not spin-off, it's anthology. And then both this and Han Solo just turned into a Star Wars story.
Which reminds me, isn't that what they titled the Twilight stuff? Something, a Twilight story?
A Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey, a Twilight story.
I
don't
can't
know.
Originally, I mean, according to our sources at StarWars7News.com, which, by the way, is one of the places that we go to for all this news, they do a fantastic job aggregating everything that happens in the Star Wars universe and giving it to us weekly. They said that it is still referred to as Star Wars Anthology, so it might not be in the title that you see on the poster, but it is still officially referred to as Star Wars Anthology at this point.
Because a Star Wars, I'll be honest with you, a Star Wars story sounds lame.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all.
It sounds a little Ewoks Battle for Endor, but I'm not going to get up in arms
I like
about it.
anthology a lot. I really
do
did.
I.
So you know what, one of the things before we don't have to. Well, actually, you know what, Mark? All right, let's go to the next story.
All right, let's do that. The next story is that it's a continue our D23 recap. Is who joined J.J. Abrams on stage at D23 to talk about The Force Awakens. You had John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, and Daisy Ridley. They've been seen on stage together before, and Lupita Nyong'o made an appearance because, like it's been joked, she's been in every Disney project that is coming up. She was already hanging around D23 for multiple other things, so she came on stage here too. And then we got the surprise of surprises that Harrison Ford came on stage when they were talking about the poster done by Drew Struzan, which we'll get to in a second. So, Kristian, all these people were on stage together. It's pretty awesome to see.
Yes, it's awesome to see, but I do have to call back to what you guys were talking about on Monday, and I wasn't able to be part of Movie Talk. John, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought that the Star Wars panel was kind of a bust because it's a matter of, and it's really just echoing a lot of the points that you guys had made, but for me it was, I would have rather them started with Star Wars if you knew that you weren't going to show footage, because Kevin Feige had made it a point to say he likes to go to these things and show footage. They did. They showed some concept stuff with Doctor Strange. They showed the Civil War trailer. They should have ended with that, because you would have ended with a big, huge bump. Now, not that the Star Wars Land, which we'll talk about in a little bit, wasn't a big announcement. It was. But again, like you had mentioned, it wasn't live action. We were there for live action. Either show something from Rogue One, a teaser thing, the way they did at Guardians for Comic-Con that year, or show another featurette or something else too. It was a letdown. It was. But that being said, of course it's amazing to have Harrison Ford come out and see him live in person, because he's not making it out of Episode 7. John?
It wasn't. I didn't find it to be all that surprising Harrison Ford was there. He does not live far from Disneyland and stuff like that. So him being there kind of made sense. It was, at the risk of repeating some of the stuff I said on Monday, it was ho-hum. I was like, okay, is it cool seeing this group of people coming on stage? Yes, but we saw it before. They've already done that. And the most damning words about Lucasfilm's presentation at D23 came from Marvel president Kevin Feige, who, when talking about Doctor Strange, said, now, we haven't started shooting this movie yet, so we don't really have anything to show you. But how can you come to D23 and not show you something?
Right.
And so what they did was they took concept art, not even concept art, it's the finished production art. They took the production art images, put some music to it, and made a trailer out of the production art. It was a wonderful idea.
And Rogue One certainly could have done something like that.
And Rogue One, which has started shooting, which has been shooting for longer than Guardians of the Galaxy was shooting when they made a trailer for that for Comic-Con. You brought up the big thing. If you're Disney and you're trying to convince us that D23 is a go-to thing on par or a viable alternative even to Comic-Con, then you can't pull this. You can't say, because I remember when they started with Marvel, I thought, wow, if they're leading off with Marvel, what comes next?
Yeah.
And then they did this production next, like, they're finishing off with Star
Especially
Wars.
how big Jungle Book was.
Yeah,
Jungle Book was that middle
Jungle
piece.
Book-
You're like, whoa.
Oh, which, to your point earlier, totally, in my opinion, really built up that resume and strengthened the argument for Jon Favreau directing a Star Wars film at some point. Because when you see what he's doing, wait till you guys see this stuff. From
He'll be
Jungle
doing
Book.
a Star Wars story soon.
I am more convinced of that now than ever. But what you could have done and what they should have done when they had Disney Studios presenting second, I remember thinking to myself, holy crap, they're ending it. The cleanup hitter here is Lucasfilm. They are going to do something to blow us away. Maybe JJ was lying. Maybe they are going to show us a new trailer and I wasn't expecting a trailer or footage for The Force Awakens.
Right.
We've established that. I understand that. But bring the cast out on stage. They're still shooting. Well, guess what? They're still shooting Captain America Civil War 2 and Chris Evans was there. You do something. Instead, we literally got that one picture that they showed us a little bit earlier.
Right.
A poster that's not even the poster for the movie. It's just a special poster, and it's cool, but it's just a special poster they made for D23. They gave us nothing. They gave us the announcement of
Colin
Trevorrow,
Trevorrow, yeah.
but guess what? Everything we got, the poster, that little cast picture, and the information of Trevorrow, 3 tweets, we could have got that, and I would have been
And we
just
knew
as
a
happy.
lot about that already. We knew the rumored cast rate in Rogue One. We knew the rumors are strong with Trevorrow, and the poster. It wasn't an official poster, so it's funny because I'm normally on the other side of. Well, I think it was still a nice thing for Star Wars fans. I was just in the crowd sitting next to you, going,
I don't know if I'm just being a Star Wars apologist or I'm disappointed in you guys for not being more of a Star Wars apologist, because I think to call the panel a bust or a ho-hum is underselling it tremendously, because let's think about what they had to offer. They didn't have footage. And look, the Doctor Strange concept art trailer was neat. That's Doctor Strange. That's a dude who I've never read one comic book of Doctor Strange, knew nothing about his world, so I got a little bit of introduction to it. I know Star Wars. I'm familiar with Star Wars. And me personally as a fan, I don't necessarily want to see concept art for 2 minutes teasing me as to what the story is. I'd rather wait for the real trailer to come out. The worst crime Star Wars could have committed is show us something that isn't 100% finished, okay? This ain't the Jungle Book where it's like, look, it's 90% finished. We think it looks pretty good. It has to be ready to go if it's Star Wars. And the fact that they threw all that other stuff at us, they gave us a picture, they gave us a poster, they had Harrison Ford come out, they had a lot of the other cast members, and the Star Wars Land announcement. They did everything short of having Oscar Isaac give us rides in an X-Wing after the panel let out. So I think they did as much as they possibly could. And if you're talking about D23 being a viable player as an alternative to Comic-Con, look at what Disney has done in this calendar year. They had 2 huge expos on their own, Star Wars Celebration and D23. What did we get at Star Wars Celebration? We got not 1, but 2 awesome teaser trailers. And at D23, they gave us the Jungle Book, Captain America, Civil War, and a bunch of other cool Disney live action things. So I don't want to hear that it's not a viable alternative to Comic-Con. If I'm Comic-Con, I'm getting a little nervous right now, but Star Wars did as much as they could, and I would rather have them not force footage on us that they're not ready to show.
Now, my counter to that, though, is saying, look, do we want to see stuff that still has green screen in the background? Do we want to see stuff as they're just shooting it? They did it at Comic-Con, and everybody was damn happy about it. They showed us that one little scissor reel, a lot of unfinished stuff, a lot of behind-the-scenes shots. This is what's filming, and everybody was thrilled with it.
Right.
Sorry, Inquisitor.
He's
don't
dead
be
anyway,
mad.
it doesn't matter.
Everybody was thrilled with it and happy with it and excited, and they didn't have, and none of that in there was stuff that we didn't need to see. You know, it was perfect. So if you can't bring us, I agree with you totally. Don't bring us something that isn't worthy of showing the audience yet. I agree with that. Well, then do what you did at Comic-Con so brilliantly. Put a package like that together that we can see and get excited about without showing us something that will diminish our expectations from the film.
I just think people forgot that Rogue One is going to be coming out well over a year away from right now, and that maybe, and all of us, look, I would have loved to have gone there and seen footage. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing Star Wars footage. There's nothing I enjoy more in the world, actually. But if it's not ready, I don't need to see it. I'm not coming at this from a reporter standpoint. From a fan, I thought they did everything they possibly could.
But, you know, the thing is, if you want to jump back to that, they showed even a little teaser thing for the fans, even for the people who were just there at Celebration. They showed you that Rogue One thing, and that was, they didn't even start shooting yet. They could have put something together for Rogue One that was a minute or 2 minutes, whatever it was, just for the fans for being there. They could have done something like that too, even if it was because they did it already for Celebration when they hadn't started shooting. They just to end it on a big note. Now I know that Bob Iger coming out there and going, "Hey, guess what? You got John Camp and Kristian Roloff. You basically are going to be sleeping at Star Wars Land." Like that was a great.
That's not an
announcement.
exaggeration. We are going to be bringing tents, whatever. We're going to be living there for about a month at a time.
It's going to be very easy for my family to say, "Where did he go? Just go look from a Star Wars Land." But where's
Daddy, Mom? You don't have a daddy anymore, sweetheart.
she'll be with me. She'll be. My wife will be like lost. But as far as that announcement, very cool that it was made in general. But the next panel right after the live action thing was about the theme parks. Save it for there. I get that. I think the reason why it was made was because of what we're talking about.
I think you are exactly right. I think they were very cognizant of the fact that this panel underwhelms.
Yeah.
Let's do a theme park thing. I would say this though, even if I were to curtail to everything you were saying, Mark, and I think you make some really valid points.
I practiced that speech all week. Thank you.
I could tell.
Amazing.
He was looking down his cards. I think then do what you were suggesting a little bit earlier. If that's the case and that's what you have, don't build up our expectations by having it be the cleanup hitter and the final thing. Move it to the front and say, guys, you know we're hard working at this. You saw what we showed you at Celebration. Blah, blah. We got a few more details for you right now, but trust us, we got some great things coming in the fall with a new trailer. Start off the panel with that. And the other big problem, something that Disney I can't believe anybody at Disney didn't catch this and fix this immediately. What the hell are on Harrison Ford's feet? Can we bring up that picture just for a second?
I love those.
What's Callista Flockhart letting Harrison Ford out of the house wearing those shoes? Does not go with that outfit. Does not go with that outfit.
It's Harrison Ford. He can wear a bath towel on his head.
Can I make a point?
You make a very good point.
Look, homeboy broke his ankle not too long ago. He deserves the most comfortable shoes he possibly wants to wear.
And you know what? I think those are New Balances, and I am a fan of New Balances.
I think those are Matumbo shoes from the early 90s.
I relent. Yeah. I withdraw my complaint.
Leave my sneakers alone. All right, Mark, what's next?
Next is the poster that I think we might be in disagreement as to how D23 came off, but we all are very excited about this poster. As John alluded to earlier, this is not the official Force Awakens poster that you'll see in movie theaters closer to the release date, but this was made specially for D23 by the celebrated artist Drew Struzan. And if you look on the poster, there's so many things that don't catch your eye right away, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, John Boyega's holding a lightsaber. You also get to see Daisy Ridley. You also get to see Kylo Ren. You can see TIE Fighters, X-Wings, and of course, Harrison Ford holding his blaster. Kristian, this seems like just another piece of ammo in your arsenal that, yes, Han Solo will not make it out of Episode 7.
Maybe so, but it was just made for D23. What I also liked was it looked like Bespin on the bottom there, like inside the carbon.
Cloud City vibe.
A little Cloud City in there. But I think what was funny was the most I was tweeted by Jedi Council fans after this thing was released. Everyone's going, "Oh my!" And even John turned to me, he goes, "Look, Boyega's holding the lightsaber." I always thought it was kind of like I can't get the words out.
Foregone
conclusion that we knew he was going to be a Jedi. That I always thought that was kind of what everyone was talking about. That he was going to be front and center and be the one to almost take over the Luke role. But maybe I was wrong, because everybody seemed to be blown away by the fact that he was holding the lightsaber. I thought it was eventually we were going to see it, and it's great that he is holding the saber. I want to see. He's a badass. I mean, that movie, the Attack the Block, he was great in that movie, and he can kick ass, and I want to see him doing it with a lightsaber. Daisy Ridley with the staff. Now, what I will suggest to you guys is this, because I don't want to put any money in the Stormtrooper today. What I will tell you is go watch
Grandmaster Chizzy P.
Did you see Tiffany Smith, the Smith Lord herself? Did you see that she interviewed Daisy Ridley.
I did. I didn't see the interview, but I saw that she did.
Did you hear about
hated
it?
her a little. Yeah, I heard about it, and I hated her a little bit for it. And
So she interviewed everybody. She interviewed JJ. She interviewed John, but she interviewed Daisy Ridley, and Daisy Ridley. We were talking about the poster, and you can watch. You can find this. It's on Tiffany's Twitter handle.
Tiffany's tweets.
Tiffany's tweets. Now, she's like, Daisy Ridley goes, the staff. I couldn't believe how much I was front and center, and the staff was there. And Tiffany leans over and goes, Darth Plagueis' staff, and Daisy Ridley goes. It doesn't say anything.
that's because she doesn't know who Darth Plagueis is.
That's what I originally thought when Tiffany had told me that she asked her. I was like, gosh, she probably didn't know. But when you see her eyes and you see her face, to me, that was one thing. Then
we see the things we want to see.
Well, then wait a minute. Andy Serkis tweeted out a picture 3 days ago in performance capture where he's standing there with a big old staff that looks just like that. And then side by side, someone put a picture of Plagueis there too. So I'm hoping.
I'm really glad this headline isn't Andy Serkis tweets a picture of himself holding his staff. That would have looked really, really weird.
Look, I said it before. I mean, do I think that's Plagueis' staff? No, but at the same time, I think there's a possibility it is. I don't think this is, even though I don't think it's going to happen, this isn't one of those theories that I think is just way too far out there or way too far of a stretch. The similarities are a little too striking. The fact that it's being featured prominently in almost all the photos in the Entertainment Weekly thing, it's featured prominently in the poster. There could be a very big deal. Now, about the John Boyega thing.
Yeah.
I did not think he was going to end up being a Jedi character.
Oh, really?
And to be honest, I was hoping he wouldn't end up being a Jedi
Really?
character. Yeah, because I like the Han Solo. Don't get me wrong, I love the Jedis, but I like the Han Solo characters. The characters in this universe who are
Oscar
just
Isaac.
rogues. And Oscar Isaac, I wanted Boyega just to be a great, resistant fighter. I wanted him to be one of these, not necessarily, but now that we saw it in his hand, it's exciting. And then the questions start to swirl. Well, who is he really then? Now he's got to have a connection to somebody.
Why? How come?
I just think there's something about.
He's Force. I mean, he's a Force sensitive.
The Force lineage. I mean, it's hard to say because we don't necessarily know who Anakin's parents were, if he was like immaculately conceived or whatever. But it seems like everybody that we know in this world that is Force sensitive got it from their parents. So maybe he has parents that we've never met before.
Right. Well,
I can't speculate
Right.
on that. As far as the staff goes, I think it probably is a staff. Maybe it's not Darth Plagueis himself, but is a staff that's going to be connected somehow because, like John said, they're featuring it everywhere, and she seems to be a character from all the pictures we've seen and the limited amount of footage is that she is collecting relics a lot like what we think Kylo Ren might be doing too. So I think she's obviously got some sort of connection with this as well. So I think it could be Darth Plagueis' staff.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this question now every week. I'm going to ask this question every week. On a scale of 0, no chance in hell, to 100, abso-frickin-lutely. I'm going to ask this question week to week and see how it goes. On that scale, chances that Daisy and Kylo Ren are Solo offsprings. They're Solo/Skywalker offsprings. They're siblings. Chances 0 to 100 as of right now, and you can change your answer next week. But as of this week, for everything that we know right now,
Yeah.
where's your scale at?
I'm going 65 brother and sister. I'm going 75 cousins.
Oh, actually, that's
Yeah.
what do
Thank
you
you.
think?
95% that they're siblings.
Oh, jeez.
I'm gonna go as high as 70 right now.
95%,
I think
yeah.
70% there. So we're all leaning towards they are siblings.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
good to know.
Yeah. Now the question, once we'll start getting into the fact that Donald Gleason is part of that clan as well. Okay, Mark, what's next?
Well, speaking of your boy Drew Struzan, he was asked about The Force Awakens and his knowledge of it. And it's a really cool interview because he's talking about how he would have done this for free. He was more or less retired, but he can come out of retirement for something like this. He would have done it for George Lucas or for anything associated with Star Wars. He had a great conversation with J.J. Abrams about it. And now he's to the point where he's read the script and he's seen half the movie, and he says that this might be the best Star Wars experience
Oh, he
that
didn't
the
use the
fans
word might.
are ever going to have. He said, yeah, I mean, this guy is clearly excited about what The Force Awakens has to offer. He talked about how much we all would love this story. So the guy who did the poster likes it. That's good news, right, Kristian?
It is good news. I'm buying it for sure. And I don't think it's just, he doesn't need to sell the movie. He doesn't. I mean, it would be nice of him to go, yeah, this is the best one yet, guys. Go check it out. Everyone's going to see it. he knows that when he's talking here now, that it's a matter of telling, because he is very much associated with Star Wars the same way John Williams is, the same way Lucas himself is. Drew Struzan is the guy that gave you all those classic posters. So he knows that fans listen to him. He's not going to start selling garbage. And he definitely didn't say that about the prequels. And if he did, I'd like to stand corrected. But I'm going to tell you that if you go back in interviews that he did, and if he says that any of the other Star Wars movies are the best that he's ever seen, then I'm going to eat my words, and then I apologize for it. But I just am taking this guy for his word that I think we're going to be in for something really, really special here. John?
Well, okay, so we look at his words, and he said, I think absolutely this will be the best Star Wars movie ever. This is a guy who has a lot of loyalty to George Lucas, too. Because actually in that interview, one of the things he said, one of the things that motivated him to come back and do the art and do the posters, and first of all, how grateful should we all be that he's come back to do these posters? Very much. But one of the things he said was, he goes, I had to do it for George. You know, that's one of the reasons he pointed out, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who's got a firm grip on the old and the traditional Star Wars and where it is now. However, that being said, I liken this story a little bit unto the Warner Brothers executives giving Batman versus Superman a standing ovation. It's their own movie. And while he is not the producer or the director, he is associated with Star Wars. Now, that's not to say he's lying. I'm not suggesting that at all. But this is a guy who read a script and saw half the film and is very enthusiastic and very excited, and that's a good thing. I would have been worried had he come out and go, yeah, it's pretty good. I would have been worried, and that would have been a flag, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm not going to get too excited about a guy connected to the film coming out and saying, this is going to be the best one yet. But if you had to just boil down the question, say, is this good news or bad news? Obviously, it's good news. It is good news.
Mark?
If you've ever seen Bob Ross's old painting show, you know that artists are very nice people. They're very giving. They're going to say nothing but flattering things about whatever project you're working
Turn
on.
it into a bird.
What I love about this, we're going to put a little bush, and we're going to put a little lightsaber back here, and then we're going to put a little bit of Darth Plagueis' staff. What's awesome is that he's only seen half the movie. I love how secretive Star Wars is.
Yeah.
The guy doing the poster, they're like, oh, we'll show you half the movie.
That's it. Come back
up with
in
something.
December, guy.
So yeah, it's good news. It's not anything to be like, oh wait, the guy who painted the poster loves it. I'm gonna love it, but it's certainly in the category of good, not bad.
But you see what it has done, though. Now, look, our job also is to be as skeptical sometimes too, and we'll say, like you said, John, this is a guy working for the movie. It did resonate with fans. Like,
oh, sure.
It resonated with fans. Like, tons of people that watched this show were saying, did you see what Struzan said? Did you see? It made an impact, you know, and as it should. It's the guy who's been associated with for a very long time, who's not just, like, now Rick McCallum goes, then you're like, okay. It just doesn't feel like he's selling it to me. So,
well, and to go to your point, it is key, too, to point out that, look, what Struzan did not say is, I've read the script and I saw half the movie, and this movie's really great. He did make a point to say this is the best Star Wars movie ever.
Right.
So there is something to be said for that. Did it make an impact? Yes. But did Warner Brothers execs giving Batman vs. Superman a standing ovation, did that have an impact on the DC fans too? It absolutely did. But again, it's good news because we would have been losing our minds and collapsing on the ground and having mental breakdowns had he said, meh. That we would have been crying.
I just came back for my respect for George, but I'm sure the movie will be great.
I'm sure it'll work out in the editing room.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, what's next?
J.J. Abrams was interviewed by the L.A. Times this week, and in the interview, he touched on some interesting concepts about the First Order and the Resistance and how they came to be. I thought the L.A. Times asked a fantastic question when they're talking about how in the original trilogy, you had your good and you had your bad, but now that you can see that the Empire was clearly evil, why would there be any sort of First Order taking a cue from that? And JJ had a pretty guarded but very clear answer as well, is that there is going to be more of a gray area, but you also have the Force with a light side and a dark side. It's not just one thing. The Force can be good, it can be bad, but it can be very dangerous and it can be very seductive as well. So maybe people investigating the Empire could be seduced by the dark side of the Force, as we've seen recently in films. Kristian, do you like this interview? What was your takeaway?
Oh, I love this interview so much. It's just building off the mythology and not just going to greatest hits stuff, and realizing that he had a chance. This is what we talked about last week, is that he has a chance to further the Star Wars universe. And this First Order that we're going to get is going to be, I think, the primary government or the faction that we're really going to follow. And I like the fact that it's not like, they're the bad guys, those are the good guys. They have made it clear in every interview that they've done, even when you asked the question at Comic-Con, that it was a matter of nothing. It's gray. It's not black or white. It's gray. It's a matter of what makes someone good, what makes someone bad. We don't know why they're whatever the main villainous person is doing. They don't necessarily think that they're doing it. They might think they're doing it for the good. Whatever happened here with the First Order, stretching off from the Empire, maybe being a faction of the Empire or the Resistance, all that stuff. I am intrigued now from what I've heard so far. But Mark, what do you think?
I mean, he also went to point out that there are people who will study the Empire and say, no, the Empire were doing the right thing. Like, you can look at any government that's been toppled in history, and people will say, they will defend, oh, no, that government had it right. They had the correct ideas. They just didn't implement them right. I think you are going to see a lot of good and a lot of bad. There's going to be some gray area, particularly when you talk about Force-sensitive characters like a Kylo Ren, somebody like that, who may have multiple shades and may have lineage to some of our heroes. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have either a blue or green lightsaber going against a red lightsaber. If a guy has a red lightsaber in these new movies, he's going to be bad.
John?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think they did a really good job of setting up the Star Wars universe is the fact that there is gray. It is not black and white. And I mean, there's darker shades of gray and lighter shades of gray. But one of the things that the Empire brought, and truly one of the motivations of the Emperor himself, and one of the true motivations of Vader, is to bring order. And there, you can understand how there would be some systems or whatever that valued that.
Right.
It's like, hey, I have very little doubt that once we get into Aftermath and things like that, we're going to hear some Star Wars stories about, okay, yeah, the Empire fell, that was great. But then crime broke out like crazy in this system. Piracy broke out like mad in this system. Civil wars broke out over here because the Empire was not there to maintain order. So while it was a very bad thing, it accomplished some things that some other people might have valued a lot. And I think that's why you're going to see that something like the First Order could and still does exist, with probably some systems happy that it's there. So I really like that Star Wars as a universe isn't afraid to go into those types of questions and those types of issues. And George Lucas always intended Star Wars to be a little bit of a reflection upon us as a culture. What are we willing to sacrifice and give up for certain other things? And he was always very political in the way that he was approaching it. So I kind of like that they're kind of carrying that on a little bit.
How cool. I mean, because I'm still confused. Sometimes I go back and forth. Sometimes I think that the guy on the head is Donald Gleason. Sometimes I think he's the one standing next to Phasma. I don't know. But whoever that is on the top there, let's say it's Donald Gleason. How incredible of a scene must have been to film that. To be standing, especially if you're a Star Wars fan, and you're standing looking over all of those. I mean, whether I assume that that's not green screen. I assume that it's all.
It's probably a little bit of green.
I don't mean the mountains.
Painting.
I don't mean the mountains. I mean this the stormtroopers in general.
I don't think they got 100,000 extras in stormtrooper outfits.
There are a lot.
I think they put a bunch of real ones.
100 of them.
Yeah, I think they got maybe 100 real guys in certain costumes, and then the further you get back, it starts to become
fine by me. But like standing in front of 100 of those guys, you got to start doing the Daniel Day-Lewis method acting right there.
Right. I mean, I don't prepare a speech for less than 50 stormtroopers. There's definitely more than that live right there. That's a pretty cool scene.
All right, Mark, what's next?
J.J. Abrams is still talking, and this time about Simon Pegg's role in the universe. Now, he was talking about one of his good buddies and how integral Pegg was. That yes, he is going to be in the movie. You're not going to be able to recognize him. The role might not be that significant, but Simon Pegg's role on the set of The Force Awakens was an integral part of making this movie better. He said that he would bounce ideas off of Simon Pegg, that he could give him notes on script, because Simon Pegg is an accomplished screenwriter as well as an actor.
And a diehard.
By the way, he's a huge Star Wars fan, so his insight was priceless on The Force Awakens. And Abrams was also asked about whether the rumors of Daniel Craig's involvement had any validity, and he said, I've been asked to say nothing by Her Majesty's Secret Service. To me, this is pretty much a confirmation that Daniel Craig will have a cameo, probably unrecognizable, in The Force Awakens. Christian, do you see it that way?
Yeah, I think he'll pop. It would be cool if he's just like a stormtrooper, and then they pointed out someone down the line, or you just hear his voice and you go, oh, that might have been him. That's fun. The same thing that was kind of rumored when Tom Cruise might do it. That's the type's fun. The thing that stands out to me is Simon Pegg being an integral part of the writing process. That makes me so happy, because this is a guy that and as an actor, ballsy to go and be as outspoken in the same way we are about the prequels. He is.
Oh my God! You think we go off on the prequels?
Right.
Go and read some Simon Pegg's thoughts on the subject. It makes us look like nothing.
And the fact that he is a part of the story team here because of his relationship with JJ, it's inspiring, and it means that even Lucasfilm going, okay, this is a guy that knows this universe, is a fan of this universe. You see him in those behind the scenes and how he's in that outfit, and what does he say? He goes, I burn for Star Wars. Like that's, and he would. He does.
Yeah, he really does.
And he knows the story. He knows the characters. So he's one of the guys helping the way that this new universe is shifted. Bye.
You know what? Just as a Simon, before I forget this, we have to make it our mission to get Simon Pegg on this show.
Absolutely.
We have no, seriously, we want Simon Pegg on this show. We're going to devote the full force of all of our resources, which is very little, but we are going to devote everything we've got into getting Simon Pegg on an episode.
You can even pull out
get him.
You can pull out the old thing if you want to see Simon Pegg on Collider Jedi Council. Just tweet at him. Tell him to come on.
No, let's remind people. Guys, seriously, tweet to Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
Tweet out to Simon Pegg. You've got to do an episode of Jedi Council.
Absolutely.
Start sending that out because together we can accomplish anything.
It's true. It is true. We should do more of that. But anyway, as far as him being involved in this, John, you're obviously excited about that, story-wise.
Okay, for a couple of reasons. One, because he is a gifted screenwriter.
Right.
Two, because he is not a fair-weather Star Wars fan. This guy is from birth, or at least from when Episode 4 came out. This guy is a savage Star Wars fan, passionate, extremely passionate. I mentioned it before. If you want to know how passionate he is, how seriously he takes Star Wars, go look up his writings on the prequels. I mean, and as somebody, I know this won't excite everybody, and I understand there are fans out there of the prequels, and that's totally cool. All films subjective. I'm glad you get some joy out of it. That's awesome. But you know that I don't. I don't like the prequels whatsoever. So from my point of view, the fact that JJ lets a guy in his ear who is so adamantly hates the prequels, just to go, no, JJ, no.
Right.
I mean, that's exciting. As far as the Daniel Craig thing goes, it's a non-story. If he is going to be in the film, it's going to be like Pegg. He's going to be a stormtrooper or something. It'll be cool to find out later, but it won't have any bearing or influence on the movie whatsoever. So it's not really something I would be either excited about or not. Now, if I found out he was going to play Luke's son or something like that,
or Thrawn,
or a Grand Admiral Thrawn, then I'm jumping up and down in my chair. But really, it's a non-story.
Right.
I wouldn't even hate if you saw Daniel Craig's face in the movie as whatever role it is. It's not going to take me out of it as long as he's not wearing a tuxedo and drinking a martini. It'd be cool to have Daniel Craig involved in this universe in whatever capacity he is. As far as Simon Pegg goes, it's so smart of J.J. Abrams because, I mean, look, I don't think Simon Pegg was like, hey, you should put this in the movie and this in the movie. It seems like they used him more as a mini focus group of one person who is a diehard fan.
That's a great way to put it.
If you've ever seen the movie Paul, you can see what a huge fan of all things geek Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are, and the fact that J.J. Abrams is smart enough to use his buddy in this way to be like, hey, we have this written. What do you think about this before we go forward? It's the perfect use of Simon Pegg.
It's like if I was directing a Magic the Gathering movie, you would absolutely be on the set with me all the time.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing is also, I think that Simon Pegg's the type of guy that if he was not a successful actor or writer, he could very well fit in with a Pablo Hidalgo or Leland Shee and be part of that story group. You could see Simon Pegg being part of the Star Wars story group. So I love it. Okay, Mark, what's next?
There's a cool website called Collider. If you've never checked it out, they're running a story on some of the impressions that this new cast had when they saw the original trilogy and the way that it was magnificent for them to be on set of a Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens. My biggest takeaway from this is twofold. One is that John Boyega's talking about that wow moment he had on set is when they brought out a black box and he opened it and it had a lightsaber in it. And he took the lightsaber and he's like, wow, I'm totally in a Star Wars movie. Now I have the lightsaber. And Oscar Isaac was also quoted talking about J.J. Abrams and how he worked in the old magic to this, but still being able to put a new spin on what we're doing. This seems so consistent with everything we've heard about this movie so far, is that you're taking all the good stuff from the original trilogy, which is a lot, and you're adding your own elements to it. Kristian, I'm really excited by this article.
Yeah, me too. And I think that because Oscar Isaac also talked about the original trilogy and stuff too, as far as getting Larry Kasdan and the original cast, and this whole cast paid a lot of respect to what came before them. And to me, that's what you need to do, because that's when we go into this movie, episode 7. That's what we're taking with us. We're taking the original trilogy with us in there, our memories of it. Once we get to episode 8, it's going to be what episode 7 painted, because that's the new universe we're in. But right now, we're going in knowing everything we did, and even people who are not reading the books and the comics are going to go in going, what happened since Jedi? That's the first thing is Jedi, Jedi, Jedi. When we last saw our characters, that's what everyone's going to be thinking going in there. So to hear that they're all paying homage and the fact that what the original trilogy meant to them, yeah, of course it's uplifting to hear that, Mark.
And it's the feel of the original trilogy. It's
Right.
not just that the characters are back or that you have some of the same vehicles. It's that when you're on set, when Daisy Ridley stepped on the set in Abu Dhabi that first day, it's like, this is what it must have been like in 1977, where there's real sand under my feet, there's real creatures, there's practical effects, there's vehicles. It feels like I'm on a movie set because I'm on a movie set and I'm making hopefully what is going to be a continuation of what the original trilogy did.
You know what it makes me think of when I hear about these guys and talking about our experiences stepping on these sets with knowing what Star Wars is? It does take me back to thinking about what did those guys whenever they shot it in 1975 or something like that, the guys who were there to shoot the original Star Wars. And it's so weird to think about that they had no idea what they were doing.
They thought it was a joke.
They thought a lot of the crew just thought the movie was just a bomb.
Oh, they made fun of Lucas on the set.
Alec
everything.
Guinness
Yeah.
didn't want it. It was so embarrassed to be involved
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah, I mean, he signed on to it, but then moved away from it. It's like they didn't know that they were creating history,
Yeah.
global history, when they stepped on that stage and when they stepped on that set and when they got into that sand and all that kind of stuff. And Lucas himself didn't even really know what it was they're getting into. Now you fast forward and you get this group of people who are so aware.
Oh,
They
yeah.
are so aware. And I can only imagine the burden and the weight of that on their shoulders. You are so aware, not only are we hopefully making a great movie, but we are now walking in the shoes of what came before us, which was monumentally large. And that is, look at me. My hair on my arm is standing up.
Listen,
I'm getting excited thinking about it.
to that point is that, yeah, of course there's a lot of stress involved in it too. But an interview that I saw with JJ recently was that he said, and he made it clear, he said, I had so much fun doing it. He's like, yeah, I was working. You knew how much pressure there was, but it was never a moment to him where he wasn't grateful for what he was doing. It was always, I'm making Star Wars every day. I'm making Star Wars. Like that's why you hire him.
Do you remember that one clip, that clip in the Comic-Con footage when they showed that one guy, just a construction guy's like, I get to come to work every day and build the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, exactly.
My life is awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, just imagine that. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Okay, Mark, what's next?
Well, we got some concept art possibly of the Knights of Ren and Maz Kanata. Now, Kristian, when you look at this Knights of Ren, and it came from Indie Collider, it looks like what some of the other Knights of Ren, not named Kylo Ren, might look like, and it has a very medieval and samurai spin to it. And then when you talk about the Maz Kanata, there might be concept art that shows a different version of that creature that we saw handing off the lightsaber in the second Force Awakens teaser. So when you look at this concept art, does it get you a little excited to meet more of the Knights of Ren and Maz Kanata?
Yes, because it means they're all obsessed with Vader. If this is because look at that guy's
right.
helmet, man.
Right.
That is a shaping of Vader, and it means that they were built. Whoever's running this, maybe that's who Snoke. Maybe Snoke's running the Knights of Ren, and Snoke is building off this, and they're all obsessed with Vader. And Kylo Ren himself was one of the guys who was maybe one of the top students. Who knows? But the reason why I love the samurai look and all that, because from what I've heard, everything they're shooting on, even that island that they're shooting on, and that there's like a castle that they shot in as well too. JJ's going for a medieval feel. I love it. I think that's really smart. It brings out the fantasy. Star Wars is not sci-fi. It's fantasy. It's a fantasy movie. That's really what it is. And to bring out the castles and more of this type of stuff. I mean, a knight with a lightsaber, but in a badass Vader type lightsaber. And these are, it's almost like Knights of the Republic, to where when the Sith had an army, if you go back and you play that game, they're all running around in this kind of armor, but it was Sith armor. So that kind of reminds me, and they could do variations of it. So you have one faction of the First Order with all these cool new stormtroopers and Captain Phasma and Donald Gleason's character, and then you have the Knights of Ren running around looking like this. That's pretty cool. John?
I mean, it's terrific art. Now, I'm not positive about the origin of the art. I don't
Right.
want to get too excited about it.
Yeah, we don't know how accurate it is.
Yeah, we
right.
don't know how accurate it is. Okay, now that being said, let's just look at it for what it is. All right, and it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. It reminds me a lot of the first pieces of concept art, especially the one in the top left. Remember the first pieces of concept art came out for Darth Maul, and I think the direction they gave the artist is draw something that looks like he just came right out of your nightmare.
Yeah.
Was what they first said about Darth Maul, and those first images of Maul were like very foreboding and very ominous and terrifying at the same time. And I look at some of these pieces of art, and I think, especially that one in the top left, I'm like, that's straight up out of a Clive Barker horror movie up there in the top, which is great. You see the homage to Vader and the dedication to Vader. So they're really great. No idea if these are actually accurate or not, if these are true or not, but as is, if they were true, they look fantastic.
Mark?
Yeah, this artwork to me shows just how seducing the dark side can be. I mean, it is Jessica Rabbit level seduction because these guys, it's like becoming a Knights of Ren from this art indicates that it's not like getting a Quiznos card. This takes effort. This takes years of study and training, and it's not just the physical ability to use the Force. It's research. It's looking at what came before you. And so I go back to my point about how seductive the dark side is that they clearly research and they see that the dark side can be evil and that you probably shouldn't go down the dark path because once you go down there, it will forever dominate your destiny. They look like their destiny has been dominated, and they made a conscious decision to do that. So what was in the research? Is it just Darth Vader? Do they go further back? Are we going to learn more in a new movie about what came before the classic trilogy than we learned in the classic trilogy? So seeing this artwork is just, it's phenomenal to me.
I thought it was great. I mean, it just does add up. And I know some people, and I want to say that I'm one of those people initially that we got a couple comments last week that said there has to be Sith Lords and Jedi. That's the Force, and I get it, but I'm not going to be completely bummed to the point of where I'm going to be upset if the Knights of Ren are the new Sith Lords, because the Sith Lords could not work more than two people. They kept trying to kill one another. Maybe these guys found a way to do it.
There's got to be. There's going to be some.
I think so.
Well,
Too.
and the thing is true. I reject the notion that, the Sith and the Jedi are the Force. No. The Force is the Jedi and the Sith Lords, but the Force can be other things too. It's the Force that defines what the Jedi are. It's the Force that defines what the Sith are. They do not define what the Force is. And so, if they were following the rule of two, well, the two are gone. They went out on the same day. They're gone. And so something else has to rise in its place. Life, as they say in Jurassic World, finds a way, and the Force found a way, and the dark side of the Force found a new expression, maybe in these Knights of Ren.
Yeah. All right, Mark. What's next?
All right. So, last but not least, we have George Lucas. You may have heard of him.
Yeah.
He is now officially a Disney legend. Kicking off D23 in the morning on Friday, they gave him, as well as Johnny Depp came up stage. George Lucas got to be a Disney legend. It's a long overdue thing in my mind, but the fact that Disney hasn't owned Star Wars for that long makes sense. They presented it to him in front of throngs of people, and George came on stage and gave a short speech. Kristian, is George Lucas a D23 legend?
That's actually Johnny Depp dressed as George Lucas. But yeah, of course he is. We missed that speech. We got there a little too late.
Mm-hmm.
You go there right before the panel the day before, because they did it on Friday. The panel live action was on Saturday. So people are already excited about what they were going to see from Star Wars, and you get Lucas there too, and he even said, "I never made a movie with Disney before," and he actually, but the one thing he did, which it's just Lucas. It's like, remember Manny being Manny, Lucas being Lucas,
George being George.
He there was one part. They announced him in the beginning of this thing, and they just go, the Star Wars movies, and yeah, he made the prequels, but they kind of brushed over the prequels kind of fast, because what I would assume is they don't want people in Legends booing or anything,
Right.
And then he goes, I kind of designed Jar Jar of a Goofy, and it's like,
No,
don't bring that name up here.
Stop talkie.
That was the only thing that I think there was kind of like the only moment that was weird. But yeah, you have to honor George Lucas. Without George Lucas, and from any gruff you've ever given George Lucas on anything he has done, we aren't sitting here without him. We are not talking about the Knights of Ren or anything else without George Lucas. He is the creator. He is absolutely a legend and deserves to be called one.
You ever see one of those movies where there's like a big evil overlord, whatever, and the heroes are brought in front of them, and then there's some henchman there who like kicks down the back of their knees and say, "You get on your knees." If I'm in a room and George Lucas walks in and you're in that room too, I'm kicking the back of your knees. I'm like on your knees, and you know whose presence you are in. Yeah, he gave us the prequels. Look, and everybody knows what I thought about the prequels. That's fine. It's not just Star Wars, though, too. It's everything that Star Wars birthed and what came out of Skywalker Ranch. ILM, Skywalker Sound.
Pixar.
Digital Dolby. I mean, like, there's so much. He is, like, single-handedly responsible for, like, pushing the world of film in advance in terms of their technology, not just on-screen technology, but off-screen technology, and his imagination, what he was able to bring to life. We talked about, everybody thought when they were making that first Star Wars movie it was a joke. You know who didn't think it was a joke? George Lucas didn't think it was a joke.
Right.
And when you read that book that we reference here all the time, I highly recommend you read it, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. When you read that book and you realize there were so many calculated chess moves around the way, because that Star Wars thing, that could have fallen off the rails too, even when it was a big hit. The things that this guy did to keep that momentum going, the decisions he made here and there, was there a little bit of luck involved? Damn right there was a little bit of luck involved too. But we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be talking this. The movie industry today would not be what it was. We're not kicking, the prequels, under the carpet and whatever and saying, oh, let's just forget he did. No, he did those. But that doesn't take away the mastermind that he is and what he brought us at all.
And even those movies enhance what we'd have in digital.
Absolutely they did.
Those movies, for whatever you want to say about as far as certain things and scripts, they did a lot for film. Absolutely.
They invented new technology in the prequel films for the world of visual effects that they still use today and build upon that. I mean, so even then there was a lot of value.
Yeah, I mean, I'll defend George Lucas to the death. The guy, he created, I think that sometimes he struggles with the fact that he created something by himself and then it became to the world. Now the world owns Star Wars, and that maybe the letting go of his baby is a little difficult to deal with even years after he's sold it. So he's a visionary. He's not a professional speechwriter. He's certainly not a professional public speaker. So if he is going to reference Jar Jar in a speech, the guy can do whatever the hell he wants. It's his Hall of Fame induction. He could have stripped naked if he wanted to. It's George Lucas at D23. He has license to do whatever he wants because he gave us the reason why all of us wanted to go to D23 or pretty much anywhere else on the planet in the first place. It's to dream about planets on a distant galaxy far, far away. He earned it.
Hey guys, take a look at this. All right, what's oh no, now that's it.
Those are the $4 billion penis.
Star Wars news is now done. Now we get to the point of the show that Ray, our graphics guy, loves the most, and that is, what's the deal with canon? That is everything in the world of Star Wars. This could be the video games, the comic books, the novels, anything that ultimately ties back into the world of Star Wars, Rebels, Clone Wars, whatever. Mark, what's up?
Can I interest you boys in some character trademarks?
Yes.
Let's talk about this because a couple of mornings ago, news came out that there were some future characters who had been trademarked by Lucasfilm, according to the website Stitch Kingdom. First up is Valera.
Well, let's say about Stitch Kingdom also. They're the ones who found out early about the registration. Just to show you why this story has merit here is because they found out a few months before the name of Captain Phasma came out.
Right. Yep.
They had done the research on it.
That's right. And some speculation on Valera is that it could be in reference to Valera Sar, which is a character originally created for, yes, John Campea, the Star Wars role-playing game. So we have that. The second name trademarked is Mon Destra.
I think that's Mon Destra right there.
That is Mon Destra right there, yeah. So, Kristian, you got your Valera, you got your Mon Destra. Which of these characters intrigued you more?
I think the girl the top one here is that's actually Mon Destra. I think the Valera is the girl on the bottom that you're seeing right there in the graphic from the role playing game. The girl, I think that if we get some ass kicking females too, I think that Star Wars has made some really cool female characters recently, and one of those being Asajj Ventress. So if we and look at Sabine, look at maybe what Felicity Jones is going to be doing, look at Captain Phasma, they're doing it right. As far as for all those naysayers out there in the beginning, like, well, Star Wars isn't going to have strong female characters. Yes, they are, and they're doing it well. They're continuing to do it well, and they're having more and more. And I think this was always the plan. So this particular girl, I want to see more. And I don't know where she's going to pop up. She could pop up in Rogue One. She could pop up in Rebels. Who knows, John?
I just love the picture. I expect to see Aquaman floating up there any second now. And I love the Mon Calamari is a race I think they need to revisit, and I think they need, because clearly especially they provide the bulk battleships for the rebellion. At the same time, those cruisers are Mon Cal cruisers.
Right.
I mean, so it's a race that we can't just forget as one guy yelling it's a trap. It's more than that, and I really like that the world of Star Wars is going to be paying more attention to them.
That's right, and as it was noted by Kathleen Kennedy at Star Wars Celebration, is that with the advent of new movies, they want to bring in strong female characters. This would clearly be an indication of that. And also the Mon Destra thing is interesting because they noted that the name Captain Phasma was taken from an original work of fan fiction, so maybe other fan fiction could be playing a role in new characters that we get to meet in Star Wars canon. Maybe Destra is the next incarnation of that.
Very possible, because look at the stuff that Kathleen Kennedy, who I get more and more respect for every single day.
Oh, yeah.
You look at what she did and what I thought was so great. Talking about what we just talked about, very similar to the Simon Pegg thing, that she found people who built droids in Star Wars Celebration and hired them for The Force Awakens.
Yep.
She's paying attention. She knows that, maybe that's creative. It's not just like, oh, well, they don't work for Lucasfilm, so they possibly couldn't know Star Wars. She doesn't think like that at all. She's smart. She knows that there are people who create certain characters. Well, wait a minute. That's a good character. That's a character we can use. There's a reason, going back to the George Lucas being a legend, who did George Lucas go out to right away to get when he was gone? I'm going to step down and I need somebody to run your company. And she's like, who are you thinking? You. That's George Lucas. That's another point for George Lucas. So, all right, next, Mark, what do we got?
Well, we have toy news yet again.
Toys!
Force Friday is still a couple weeks away, but right now you can get a look at Daisy Ridley or Rey's character, Speeder, everybody. What's interesting about this and noted in the article that we're looking at is that Rey's face is covered at the beginning. So maybe it's covered at the beginning of the movie, and it's speculated that maybe there's some sort of reveal that, oh man, who was just in that incredible speeder chase? What's the name of that dude? And it actually ends up being a female, a la Princess Leia, originally in Return of the Jedi.
Well, she's also on a desert planet, too.
It does get hot. It does get sun scorching.
Sandy, and you covering your face and stuff too. She seems to be she seems to be a survivor. I think they even kind of reference that to her character every time they describe her. So, yeah, this just gets me now more excited for the toys. It's like it just reminds me. Mark, you and someone the other day had asked us about if we're collectors of anything. And I know, again, bringing up Ray and even Dennis and yourself, John, you guys are collecting like the pops and stuff too. I haven't been a collector for anything in a while. That might change pretty soon because I want to go and I want to check this stuff out in the new, because the prequels toys, when they came out, people were very excited for them. They didn't do as well as everyone thought, and that probably had because of the way some of the movies were received. But they didn't have that kind of magic the same the original trilogy did. And to be fair, no movie or anything had that kind of magic at that time. That was like a first of its kind to do something like that. But I think we might see a wave of Star Wars madness again with the toys. But this particular thing, I dig it. John?
I don't read too much into the fact that she's wearing her mask and stuff. Like, you know why? Because this is a toy. And while Hasbro does everything good and right and pure and is a light to humanity, and the fact that my wife works for Hasbro has nothing to do with that. The reason there's a mask on her face is so that they can have another exact same version of the mask without it being on her face. Right. And you notice right above the character, it says Rey in brackets Jakku. Then there's going to be Rey Hoth. There's going to be Rey Yavin 4. There's going to be Rey this. There's going to be 55 different versions with mask, without mask, in white turns, with the staff, without the staff.
And we'll own all of them.
Because these idiots, this pack of morons sitting at this table, will buy every single new one. Wait a minute, there's a new one of Rey in blue shoes? And then we're going to run out and buy that one too. So that's why she's wearing the mask.
Might end up being valuable because it just says Rey and then Jakku, the planet she's on. What if in episode 8 you can get a Rey toy, but it says Rey Solo on there?
Kira Solo, whatever her name is. Yeah. All right, Mark, what's next?
All right. Well, after the exciting toy news comes the inevitable, video game news. The Star Wars Uprising game was premiered at PAX, and they had a special guest, Kristian, none other than Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams. Star Wars Uprising's release is right around the corner. Kristian, can you wait until you get this game?
No, man. This is it. When does it come out? It comes out September.
A couple weeks, yeah.
It's going to come around at the same time that Aftermath comes out, and I'm going to start
Right.
We get right into that.
Well, I mean, for our New Zealand friends, it's already out, I believe.
Uprising is right.
Uprising is, yeah.
But I'm going to be buried in Aftermath, and then I'll be playing Uprising while I'm taking breaks from Aftermath, because this is all the stuff that I want to know about. This is what I want to learn. Because remember this, that in these books and the comics and this Uprising game, this is where you get tidbits of how the First Order began. This is how you start to go on a path of what happened to Luke and Leia and Han. And even though they're not going to necessarily be the leads of these stories, they're certainly going to be in a lot of them. And even with Lando Calrissian in this story, you're going to know what happened after that. Even if it's one scene, good. Let me know. I know the landscape by getting this game. So that's why I'm very curious to play it when it comes out. Mark?
I'm ready for you to play this game so you can tell me all the things that might be or may not be involved in the new films or anything else like that, the Journey to the Force Awakens, when you talk about Uprising, being available on your mobile device. And my bet is that you actually finish playing the game before you finish reading Aftermath.
I don't think so.
My bet. I'm going to say I think you beat the game, then you pick up the book.
I don't know. John, are you going to be... Now, I know that you're definitely getting Aftermath.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I know... So, are you going to be playing Uprising?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, definitely. And I didn't realize this. I just jumped onto the Uprising website. It's available for pre-registration now.
Okay.
So you can get on there, and you will probably be amongst the first to get your hands on this game. I hope it's not a freemium game. If any of you guys have watched that South Park thing, I hate those. But this looks really cool. The sizzle for it was fantastic.
Right.
I'm dying to know who this dude is.
Right.
He looks like he's taking on a Grand Admiral kind of role. So maybe.
And where does he fit into the Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Does he at all?
Where does this all come? The role that he plays after the fall of the Emperor. So I think there's going to be some really cool story in this game. And I'm actually looking right now. I don't know if the gameplay in this game is going to be any good or not. It might be total crap. I'm looking forward to the story in the game to see how that ties into what's going on in the rest of canon.
All right, Mark, what's next?
Hang on, I'm just pre-registering for the game.
All right, fair enough.
Give me a second. Okay, well, you boys remember our conversation that we all agreed how great D23 was for Star Wars. Well, look, say whatever you want about the fact they showed footage, they didn't show footage. What they did reveal at the end was Bob Iger came on stage and announced not one, but two Disneyland expansion projects, one in Orlando, one in Anaheim, and they both are going to be Star Wars themed, the largest land expansion project in Disney theme park history. Sorry, Tomorrowland, you're out of the record books, and in comes Star Wars. It's going to be a fully immersive universe. It's going to be some distant planet on the outer rim. You can go to the bar, you can have an adventure, you can hang out at the Millennium Falcon. This looks like the place where we're going to be spending the bulk of our time for decades to come. How excited are we for Star Wars Land, gentlemen?
I mean, come on. This is amazing. But the one negative is we have no idea when it's coming out. It could be in 20 years from now.
We could be dead.
That kills a lot of the enthusiasm that I know I would have right now.
I totally get it. And I understand that because it's just a matter of, it's like LA's getting a football team. When?
Right.
They will. When? Yes. It's like, so,
Yes.
yeah, that's really what it is.
Christian Harloff for city council.
Yeah. So same thing. Star Wars Land. It's going to happen. When? We'll figure it out. We'll be there. But everything that is what they're talking about. I mean, the one bummer for me is that I wanted to. My brother is as big as Star Wars fans and is watching right now, as big as Star Wars fans as we are. Watches every week, and I was hoping, they're going to announce it just in Anaheim, so it's going to be an excuse. He's got to come here all the time because he's going to want to. Even if he doesn't want to see me, but now he lives in Florida, so they're going to be. So he'll be there all the time in Orlando, but it's so cool. I mean, you talk about virtual reality. I mean, you're going to be walking around in Star Wars. You're going to be walking around there. There'll be stormtroopers. The one thing is that, and I think that they'll probably do what they do at similar parks. I know that if you're past a certain age at like Disney, you can't dress up as a character. Like you can't dress up as Cinderella and stuff because if you're
they
a
call
creep,
that the Ellis rule from the infamous 2009 experiment.
Well, but you could be a creep and just with kids and whatever too. But you won't be able to dress up as a stormtrooper because I'm assuming stormtroopers should be the security guards. Because if you mess up at the cantina, an actual stormtrooper is going to escort you off the property. I just want to watch that happen. I'm going to be hanging out at the cantina just to watch some guy drinking blue milk get escorted right off the property by a stormtrooper. But there's so many things, so many great things that could happen here. I will definitely be getting a year pass, but John, I mean, go past the fact that we don't know when it's coming out and just the realm of possibilities of what you can experience as a fan. How excited are you?
I'm going to go missing. I'm totally going to go missing. Look, one of the things that Iger did when he started talking about this was he went into great detail about how the fact Disney's never done anything like this. You're going to be completely immersed. Will be in Star Wars. You will be in Star. So the whole world is supposed to be an outer rim planet that I don't think has been mentioned in any of the expanded universe stuff yet. So it looks like a cross between Endor and Naboo.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the cross there. They said when you walk down the streets, it's going to be like you're on the world because there's going to be droids walking down the streets. There's going to be local creatures and things like that. Every bar and restaurant in there will be a cantina feel. They're going to have like an alien band playing and all that kind of stuff. And unlike, say, Cars Land, that has the one major ride, which is a great ride, by the way, if you get a chance to get on it. They said it's actually going to have two major feature rides. And I think one of them is going to be putting you in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, which is...
That's great, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is 14 acres, the single largest Fantasyland expansion Disney has ever done in their history.
Yeah.
So... what is there not to, it's just the one thing, once again, that kills my enthusiasm from getting really super excited is they didn't say in 3 years or in 2 years or in 5 years. Even if they said in 6 years, I still would have been hyper excited because I would have known the date. So, but this should be noted that Disney is already casting for characters in Disneyland. They're already casting. So I have a feeling they know when they're opening. They've got all their things planned out. They got the land design. They got all the land. Everything's in place. They're just waiting for something to make the announcement as to when, which makes me think maybe it'll be sooner than we think.
Maybe.
The big question, the big bet that's going to be fun to have at bars is what happens first. Star Wars Land opens or LA gets an NFL team. Like, I don't know which one. I know what I'm spending my money on, and it ain't going to be the football team. I'm a huge Redskins fan. I'll die a Redskins fan. As I am a Star Wars fan, I am as excited about this as my wallet is nervous. I'm going to be dropping a lot of money at this thing, and this is an excuse to... It's going to be like that movie Blow, when they have too much cash coming in,
right.
So just start weighing the stacks of cash they're going to be making. I called my sister and my brother, both of whom have a 1-year-old, and I said, you guys picked the right time to make me an uncle, because I can't wait to take my niece and my nephew to Star Wars Land for years to come. Uncle Mark's going to get too hammered on death sticks. They're going to have to drag him out, but this is going to be an experience to be treasured.
Totally agree. All right, Mark, what's next?
All right, well, John is already in line at Star Wars Land. That's why it's going to be me and Kristian for the rest of this episode. And Kristian, our next piece of news comes from Disney Infinity, where we had some new concept art revealed, and we had an update on Battlefront.
What do we got?
Now, the concept art that you might guess, the first two characters that we saw were Finn and Rey, and then you also have some concept art that looks like an X-Wing that is in the heat of a battle. It looks very, very exciting. And then we have an information bit about Battlefront. Is that the game is going to have 9 multiplayer nodes. Only 4 have been announced so far, so we have 5 more that we could hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more excited about the Battlefront stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people love the Infinity stuff. I'm not as in tune with it as everyone else, but to me, that Battlefront concept art that art from Battlefront is great. That's exactly what I want to see. I want to see stormtroopers fighting, actually camped out behind an X-Wing, shooting, probably one that they took down. I get more and more excited for Battlefront as time goes on here, because it's going to be really the first game, minus Uprising, that we get to play. Because it's one of those games, because the old Battlefronts were really popular. So and I got a PlayStation 4 just so I can get Battlefront. I'm looking forward to it. And I know we'll probably play a few games of Battlefront.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And whereas Uprising, where we mentioned earlier, is already released in some countries, I believe that the United States is going to be the first country to get Battlefront when it comes out. That's November 17th. In Australia, it's the 19th, and then the 20th in Europe. And if you pre-order Battlefront, you get the Battle of Jakku, which is maybe where that concept art came from, and that's going to be available to you on December 1st. So just a little bit of bookkeeping there.
That will be available to everyone on December 1st, right? Jakku? Okay, cool. All right, what's next?
Tom Baker, Kristian. You ever heard of him? Well, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you would have.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Oh, were you going to say that you knew him from Doctor Who?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
I hear Doctor Who is great. I've never really explored it, but this guy is widely regarded as the best Doctor Who pre the 2005 revival of that franchise, and it's been reported by him himself that he's going to be doing some voiceover for Star Wars. Now, what exactly that voiceover is going to be, it seems less likely that it's going to be for a film like a droid or some character in that, and it's more likely that it would be in some sort of animation enterprise like Rebels, or maybe one of their many upcoming video games. So, Kristian, this guy is an expert. He's a genius at voiceover. What do you think of this news?
It's great. Whatever he wants to do, whatever they can get him for. I mean, I think that I would right now prefer to see him in Rebels just because that's the show that I'm already invested in, that I know, and it would add another dimension to already pretty rich characters. That being said, if they tell me that Tom Baker's going to be a voice of a lead character in a video game, great. Either way, it's great news. Just goes back to the point of everything that we've always said is they're going after the right talent.
Right. You go after a Time Lord when you want to put somebody else in Rebels. Okay, Kristian. Well, it is now that time of the show when we talk about something you know a lot about and I know very little, and that would be...
life.
The comic books. Kanan, issue number 5 is out. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kanan is one of your favorite series of the Star Wars comics to this point. Did this do anything to change your mind?
It stayed there. I mean, it's funny because it was Kanan and Vader for a very long time, and Star Wars was kind of on the bottom here. Star Wars is right up there now.
Obi-Wan helped pitch a comeback.
Absolutely. Star Wars has been incredible so far, but Kanan, what Greg Weisman has been doing with this series is just the dude really knows the story. He's one of the guys who started Rebels, and then Kanan, you're learning how he became Kanan Jarrus. You learn that story with him, and it's what I really like about this particular issue is that it doesn't drag on as I go, okay, how long is he going to be getting chased, and how long is it? It's like, no, here's the storyline. It ties up, and let's move on. Let's go to the next thing. And in this particular this particular issue, if you have been following this comic from the start, it's a great through line. You learn more and more about the Kanan that I met in A New Dawn, and then that you ultimately met in episode 1 of Rebels.
Right, because I'm not opening a book necessarily, but when we're talking about a comic book, the cover of this, it looks like he's on a swamp-like planet. Is that Dagobah?
No, it's not Dagobah. No, it's not. It's not.
I lost a lot of money.
No, it's not Dagobah, but it is him. Like I said, when you meet Kanan in A New Dawn, he has a Han Solo vibe to him, where he's pretty selfish. Honestly, he just wants he's by himself. He doesn't trust anybody, and he's just kind of doing his own thing. He's kind of a scoundrel. And you see that evolution to that guy. Because, like I said, he wasn't like that when you met him in Rebels.
He seemed a little Han Solo, but he also seemed like he had a dark past when it comes to the Force.
But he had a team element, and Zeb.
He was starting to embrace the team.
It was more like the big brother than anything else. And so this is a great beginning, and so far we've gotten in 5 issues of this comic. It's a great story, and I don't want to spoil details of it, but there's a lot of touching moments in this particular episode. Speaking of which, John, I actually asked you guys to tweet out at Simon Pegg earlier, someone who's very responsive to tweets and someone that I would love to get on this show. And I've realized it's more and more with the council that we have as fans. You guys really can make this happen. It's happened in the past. Freddie Prinze Jr. This is a guy that recently just tweeted out about Kanan. Tell Freddie Prinze Jr. you want to see him on Jedi Council to talk about Rebels and Kanan and everything else. I'm telling you, you guys can make it happen. If he starts getting, what's this Jedi Council thing? So
yeah, please tweet at Freddie Prinze Jr. Tell him not only to be on this set, but we want him to bring that tiny little John Smith ponytail that Kanan's sporting on the cover of that issue.
Absolutely. So hashtag it Collider Jedi Council. All right, Mark, what's next?
Star Wars issue number 8, Kristian. Well, we've gotten to see recently in this comic book run Obi-Wan Kenobi, what he's been up to. What is the rest of the gang doing?
Well, this is the big one. This is the big issue here, because we talked about this at great length, and this, if you guys are if you're reading the issue of Star Wars, what I will tell you now is either fast forward past this, because I can't get away from a spoiler here. Either fast forward past this, read the issue, come back, or fast forward 3 or 4 minutes. The Han Solo wife thing doesn't necessarily come to an end, but we start to figure some stuff out.
Okay.
You remember? I haven't told you about this yet, have I?
I wasn't the hugest fan of finding out that Han had a wife that he had ditched to go on an adventure with other people.
We don't really think that this is his wife. When she got there, she's like this bounty hunter who's going after Leia, and she keeps saying like, "Oh, you've done this, you've done that, you're great at running," and Han's like, "She's not my wife. She's not my wife." Now, John is back. John's back. Now, I actually wanted John to hear this, because John, remember we were going to be very interested. The latest issue of Star Wars addresses the Han Solo wife thing.
Oh, good.
It is as we hoped. She is a bounty hunter that is going to try to take Leia in, but she's still saying, "We're married." He's like, "She's not my wife. She's not." He keeps saying that over and over again. And then Santa Solo says, "I have paperwork to prove it." That's really what it is. Whether it was a scam or whatever, he does not care. He was involved with her at some point, but it's not one of those things that we were hoping that he was a scum. That we were hoping it wasn't, that he was a scumbag and was running away from his wife. It's as we hoped. She's like chasing him around.
3 solo kids.
Yeah, it's not that at all. It was a device to sell comics, which they did well, but it is playing into the story, and I thought that they did that pretty well. So it's and then what Luke is going through, and then Luke going in. There's a cantina scene, and there's a good cantina scene. This is like I said earlier before I started talking about Kanan. Star Wars really has jumped, because the first 4 issues I had a similar problem I had with Heir to the Jedi. It was just like the people who were writing it are going, look, I'm writing Star Wars, as where now it feels like I'm actually following the characters I know and love, and it all is tying in. And I think that the last Obi-Wan issue absolutely had added to how much I'm really enjoying this series, but this last one tied up really nice, and now I'm actually even more interested in what's happening with the saga of Sana, Han, and Leia. So if you're not reading the comics, I would definitely say for sure pick up both Kanan and Star Wars. That's, listen, today it's going to be, we weren't able to get to any Jedi, any Twitter questions from you guys for Jedi Council because we had such a packed episode, but we will bring in questions next week. Make sure that you hashtag Collider Jedi Council and get your questions on the air. I'd like to thank the council today. First, Mark 2D2, where can they find you?
Online at 5150 Ellis on Twitter and Instagram. And I'll also note that Freddie Prinze's Jr. Twitter handle is at Real FP Jr. So tweet him, let him know you want him on Jedi Council.
And you know him. He's back from being at the park already. Want to know about his experience. Obi-Wan Kenobi, where can they find you?
You can find me living at Disneyland in the new Star Wars land, and you can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campy, and of course, Monday through Friday on Collider Movie Talk.
You can follow me at Kristian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram, and make sure you want to support Dennis and Schnepp. They're playing tonight in the Ultimate Schmodown. They're going up against Team SourceFed. Go and show your love. Support your Collider team. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.